I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking all about the supplements you need to know when you're on the fertility journey. Many of us are taking a boatload of supplements, but do we know if those supplements are actually harming our fertility, if they're actually right for us? Today, we are talking about the multi-billion-dollar supplement industry and really what can go wrong with selecting supplements, how to know which supplements to take. And we're talking about the foundational supplements you need to know right now when you are on the fertility journey. Excited for you to listen. Let's go. Hey, Katie, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So today we're digging into supplements and really why we use them. But just sort of a first little caveat thing, many people over the years of doing this have kind of said, give me, do you have a pill for that? What's a supplement I can take? Sort of that magic pill, which it doesn't exist, right? So you take supplements, but you always need to do the targeted diet and lifestyle changes, making changes to your diet that's right for you. No, excuse me, working on your sleep, making
Yeah.
sure you move, not too much, but not too little, and working on your stress because the supplements are helpful, but using them alone is will not serve you, and it can just sort of be an expensive thing by not making all those targeted changes. What's your take?
Yeah, I think that's such an important message, Sarah, because we live in a bit of a fast-paced world these days, and I dare say probably an over-medicated world as well. And so the attitude, I think, for lots of people is that, yeah, well, there must be a pill that can fix this because it's kind of what we've been taught. And what we're not used to is going back to those fundamentals of health that we know make a difference. And the truth is, most of us aren't eating the best diet in the world and aren't moving our bodies in the right way and have sedentary lifestyles. Um, and are like stressed out to the max, and these kind of type A high achieving personalities where it's just always go go go, and like loads of people aren't getting enough sleep, and loads of people are proud of not getting enough sleep as well, and like loads of people boast about how little sleep they've got. And actually we yes, supplements are and can be really, really important. And we'll dig into that today. But you cannot out supplement a bad diet and a bad lifestyle. You have to address the fundamentals first.
Absolutely. We just got off our clinical mastermind. We meet weekly with our team. We were talking about is it is your job to sleep, and you wouldn't call in sick on well, you could call in sick on your job, but not repeatedly, for sleep. Sometimes we're going to bed at, 1 or 2 in the morning for weeks, and maybe that's just our habit. So yeah,
Yeah.
sleep, number one.
100%. Yeah, yeah. We had a storm last night here, and I was awake between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. because of this silly storm. And I was like, I'm so infuriated by it today, because you really notice a big
Oh yeah.
difference, like when you've had even just one night of bad sleep. And there was some research that said that, that in young, like healthy young men, when they kind of did a research where they deprived them of just 1 hour less sleep per night, there were huge ranging implications for their health, like both short term and long term. Like sleep is just so important.
Yeah, I had my castor oil pack on all last night, so I slept like a baby.
Oh,
It was, that
nice.
was so cool.
Amazing. I'm jealous. I should have had my castor oil pack on.
Awesome. Yeah, so the supplement industry is like 123, US billion-dollar industry just in the US alone. And so, yeah, it's big business. And so there's a lot of supplements on the market. It can be like super confusing. Maybe you go to your local drugstore or wherever you may go to get your supplements, but really, are those supplements right for you? So, we're always recommending professional grade supplements that are free of top allergens and dyes, and really making sure that they're FDA registered, and also that good manufacturing practices, so that GMPs is practiced. So it's really important because otherwise, if you're getting your supplement off of Amazon, you could really run into some quality issues, and maybe they're saying it's one thing, but it's something completely different.
Yeah, yeah, really, really important to remember. And I actually just took a video yesterday, Sarah, funny talking about this now, that I was in my local supermarket, and I was in when I was in the toiletries section, and I took a video of like these shelves and shelves and shelves of supplements, and I was looking at them and I was like, these are all rubbish. Like, there were like a couple, there were one or two brands in there that all name, products that I would trust. And the rest of them were just like synthetic nonsense that were just so full of fillers. And this is what is, widely available to the public. And I always say to people, if you're taking the wrong supplements, best case scenario is that you're just giving yourself really expensive pee,
Yeah.
and worst case scenario is that it could actually be doing harm. So it's really worth getting it right when it comes to supplementing.
Yeah, so the professional grade supplements, you want to make sure they're free of the fillers, the binders, the synthetic ingredients like gluten. We see a lot of our clients are intolerant to gluten, and there's, you're taking a supplement every day and it may have gluten, dyes, preservatives, soy, dairy, and chemical additives. So a lot of those things are in the supplements. We see like a common one you see a lot is soy, and gluten hidden that you didn't even know you were taking, and then all those sort of preservatives and things. So it's really important to know what you're taking.
Yeah, and it's the same with foods, right? Lots of these mass produced kind of like cheap supplements, or cheaply produced supplements. They've got the manufacturers have got two things in mind. The first thing is, how can we make this as cheap as possible? And so then they're using the kind of the fillers and the binders. And the second is shelf life, and so they want that shelf stability, which again often comes with using kind of these cheap fillers and additives to help stabilize that. So the good quality supplements, they're not always expensive, but they are one of those things where you do tend to get what you pay for, and it's because you're paying for the fact that there's not a load of rubbish in them.
Mhm. And so we have a for the anyone that's on the pregnancy journey, foundational supplements being a prenatal vitamin D3, K2, magnesium, CoQ10 or ubiquinol, probiotic, and omega. So we're going to take you through these supplements, kind of why it's important when you're on the fertility journey to take these supplements, and kind of what we're looking for with the supplement. So let's talk about the prenatal. What are we looking for on with that one?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing to think about when we're considering prenatal is the folate, because that is, if anyone goes to their doctor and says, right, we're thinking about trying for a baby, generally speaking, the advice would be, well, to take folic acid. And certainly on here in the UK on our National Health Service website, it's advised to take the folic acid for 3 months prior to trying, and that's because we know about the risk factors to a baby in terms of risk of miscarriage and conditions like spina bifida, in terms of actually that fetal development. So having adequate folate is really important. Now, there's a bit of confusion around the folic acid piece, and really what we do in the prenatals that we recommend is we tend to recommend a methylated folate, because it's in its most absorbable form to the body, and so it's quite well utilized by the body. So that's one thing that we'll look at. But really, when we're looking at a prenatal, it's just worth bearing in mind. So prenatal is another word for a multivitamin, right? So if someone refers to a prenatal, they're talking about a multivitamin. And some people might think, oh, well, I have a good diet and all of these kind of things, so why do I need to add that in? Well, actually, it's really important, because what we do know is that lots of us are deficient, or at least insufficient, in a lot of our basic nutrients and our micronutrients. And that's partly because a lot of us may think we're having a good diet, but aren't eating as much of those micronutrients as we could be. And it's partly because of modern farming practices. And so lots of the soil is depleted nowadays in lots of those essential minerals. And each of those micronutrients that's provided in a multivitamin has a unique role to play for the body, not just in creating a healthy pregnancy, but in creating a healthy you as well, and making you feel as good as you possibly can when you're trying to conceive and also during pregnancy. So a broad spectrum, high quality multivitamin can really do wonders for addressing some of the balances that we often find depleted.
Yeah, and then studies have shown that a prenatal vitamin with folate can reduce the risk of early miscarriage. Many times people potentially are taking the folic acid one, which we always recommend a methylfolate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the folate piece is of particular importance, and I think for anyone coming or listening to this podcast who has had miscarriages in the past, or who is has been trying for a long time, or has that kind of unexplained infertility, or who has had lots of rounds of IVF that haven't worked, then the folate piece of the equation is a really important one to consider.
Absolutely. And the next one we have, so we recommend obviously the prenatal for women, and then for men is the men's multi. And then there's lots of evidence to recommend the fact that having adequate nutritional supplements for men is really good for their fertility, for the sperm quality and motility. Anything you wanted to say there about the why it's important for men to have a proper multi?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the thing is with sperm quality, it is so malleable, and it's so the sperm is something that is produced by the male body or by the testicles all the time, right? And so it's something that is renewed constantly. So unlike the female gametes, which are our eggs, which is something that we're born with, there are things that we can do to help with our egg quality, but to some extent there's only so much you can do. But sperm is newly produced all the time, and that presents a real opportunity for the quality of it to be improved by our nutrition, by our lifestyle. And so all of the things that are included in a really good quality multivitamin and mineral supplement for males, they are all things that can improve those sperm parameters. And each of the sperm parameters, the sperm count, the motility, and the morphology, they are all things that can be influenced by the diet, by the lifestyle. So a lot of the time, it can make a huge difference just putting that multivitamin in and getting enough of those nutrients that the sperm need to be produced properly. So in some ways, this is going to sound really strange, but in some, lots of women feel really disheartened when their partner's sperm comes back as like not looking so great. But the way I often think about it is actually great. Like, we know we can do so much with that. So, let's take that information and genuinely, like, for the vast majority of people that I work with, if a man measures his sperm 1 month and then dedicates 3 months to this stuff, he will always see improvements. And so these approaches absolutely work.
Yeah, we see it all the time. That's why it's really important that coach couples because the female partner may be taking a whole heap of supplements, making all these diet and lifestyle changes, and the man either he's been told his semen is totally fine, or maybe he's told it's not fine. But then there's still stigma and some potential issues there for men as to why they may not want to make the changes. But literally, when you can see the blood chemistry and you can see the semen analysis, and then we actually see within a short period of time, 90 days, when you make these targeted changes, and in this case, including a multivitamin, this can really help make changes. So it's important for you and your partner to do the changes together and look at targeted supplements.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is not all on the woman, even though it often feels that way.
Yeah. And don't coach your partner. Yeah, we don't recommend that. It's not about nagging, taking your supplements. That's why it's important that he recognizes, that he has to make the changes, and then he can have a coach that can help him with his own health goals, because that can
And
just
that's what
result
I
in
love about
disaster.
Fertile is that it does include the male partners routinely.
Mhm, mhm. And the next one we have is an omega. And so this is for both men and women to take this. And so why is it important for them to take an omega?
Yeah, I mean, why is it not important to take an omega? The benefits of omega-3 are just so far-reaching, and essentially what it boils down to is that omega-3 is a fatty acid, and one of the key indicators for our overall health is our balance of fatty acids and the ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s. Now, the modern diet tends to be pretty high in omega-6 and pretty low in omega-3. The omega-3s typically are found in the oily fish. And lots of people barely eat fish nowadays. And even for those who do, we need to be careful about not eating too much because of the heavy metal contaminations. So an omega-3 supplement, I mean, there's not many supplements that I think most people would benefit from taking, but omega-3 is one of them. But as with anything else, the quality of an omega-3 really does matter. But not only for kind of general health, reducing inflammation. So omega-3 is a powerful anti-inflammatory. And we know that one of the biggest underlying drivers for fertility issues and for health issues in general is inflammation, this chronic inflammation. And so the omega-3 is a really potent anti-inflammatory, which works wonderfully. It's also fantastic for our brain health. So coming back to that stress piece that we spoke about earlier, like how many of us have got like massively stressful lives, right? It's really it's the modern way of living is naturally quite stressful. Lots of people struggle with anxiety, with low mood, and there is tons of research out there that shows that omega-3, so omega-3 has two components, DHA and EPA, and they both are really major contributors to brain health. And if we've got a healthy brain, not only are we feeling better, but our hormones are going to be produced more prolifically, and everything, it's like a well-oiled machine, literally, because you're using an oil. And so, the omega-3s are really, really important. So that's in terms of you kind of thinking about your hormones and everything else. But equally as important then is actually when a conception occurs, that developing embryo developing into a fetus needs, so the fetal brain needs the DHEA, like it's really, really important for fetal development. So again, lots of us don't have that balance of fatty acids right in our diet, so taking the omega-3 can just help to tip the balance in the right direction.
Yeah, making sure it has the DHEA. DHEA. I was going to say DHA.
DHA, yeah.
There you go. Um, yeah, so it's important for the hormones, also for the production of healthy sperm in men. So it again is one of our foundational supplements, looking at an omega. And really the caveat out there is some of the ones that we see, because there's tons on the market with you want to make sure of those heavy metals, and then the right source of fish too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's one of those ones where you can buy super cheap fish oil supplements. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. Oils and fats in general have a really very delicate balance, because oils can oxidate very easily, and so oils like omega-3, they are quite delicate, and it doesn't take much for them to tip over into oxidation. And then once they have been oxidated, then they actually become more inflammatory than anti-inflammatory. So fats and oils are one of those things where they have the potential to do amazing things for our health, but they also have the potential to be really quite harmful to our health. So omega-3s is one of those things where it's really worth getting the quality right, and the high quality, high potency fish oils are best. And really what we're looking for in terms of our sources are the smaller the species that it's come from, the less contaminated with heavy metals it's going to be. So, if we're thinking about things like anchovies or even krill, then that's going to be far less in terms of metals. But most good and reputable supplement companies will have quite a rigorous process for kind of checking for metals and making sure that the oils are pure.
Absolutely. And the next one we have is vitamin D3 and K2. This is something that we regularly see with our couples, actually, with people having low vitamin D. And the conventional reference range will say anything above 30 is good, whereas the functional reference range, you want it between 60 to 80. So we see a lot of people in the teens and the single digits or in the 20s, and that is not optimal for fertility. So it's really important to, and this is for both, this one is for both male and female partners that are on the fertility journey, important to get your blood chemistry done. So as part of our Fab Fertile method, we do a blood chemistry review, not to diagnose, but to educate. And again, we see those levels that are off. So it's important then to supplement, but then you want to retest as well. So even if you're living in a sunny climate, or most of us that aren't, especially for during the winter months and the shorter days, it's still sunshine is your best option, but also an additional supplement with it is key.
Generally speaking, Sarah, when our as a general rule of thumb, for people in the northern hemisphere like you and I, as the months of the year kind of get into these winter months, the autumn winter, a general rule of thumb is that if your shadow is longer than your body, then you're probably not going to be absorbing much vitamin D from the sunshine. So, there's lots of things around our modern lifestyle again, whereby we're probably not absorbing so much. And one of those things is even like use of sun cream over the summer. We use sun cream to protect our skin with a kind of in the right, most well-meaning way possible. But what that then does is block out those UVA, those UVB rays, which are what we can synthesize vitamin D from. So lots of us, even in the summer months, aren't getting enough vitamin D from the sunshine. Lots of us aren't eating sources of vitamin D, and lots of us are lots of us have got genetic variants whereby we don't absorb and produce enough vitamin D, or kind of adequate levels of vitamin D. So there's lots of layers to the vitamin D piece, and it really is worth getting your levels checked out, because that is one of the things that in the blood work, it's one of the most common things that we see sitting suboptimally. So yeah, vitamin D is 100% one of the biggest things to think about, and particularly if you are thinking about going into an IVF journey, it's really a good idea to kind of make sure that your vitamin D levels are balanced.
Absolutely. And so vitamin D is a pro hormone. So you can just talk about it's important to balance estrogen, and for men also to increase testosterone, and also increasing libido in both sexes. You wouldn't even really think of vitamin D being able to do that, but that's what it does. So it's super important for anyone on the fertility journey, and actually also for anyone looking to have optimal health. Anything you wanted to say on that?
Yeah, so it's the reason that the vitamin D is so helpful for fertility is because of this hormone synthesis and its involvement. And vitamin D, really, if we think about hormones as being chemical messengers, then vitamin D has hormone-like properties in that it does help our body give and receive these chemical messages. And so really, really important for those sex hormone production. The other thing that we see a lot that vitamin D is really important in is immune function. And you might think, immune function has nothing to do with fertility, but actually our immune system has everything to do with everything. Because when we're thinking about that concept of low grade or chronic inflammation that I spoke about earlier, which is one of the biggest drivers for more or less all of the non-communicable health conditions that we see in the modern world, inflammation is part of the immune response. So vitamin D can help. It's an immunomodulator, and there's tons of research that came out, off the back of the COVID pandemic, whereby people who were suffered most with COVID symptoms and kind of the people that were dying and really really sick in hospital, so many of those people had low vitamin D levels. So and it's also really important in the context of autoimmunity, and we see autoimmunity a lot highly linked to fertility issues, to miscarriage, unfortunately, as well. And so we just the vitamin D is it's just always worth checking to check that your levels are optimal. And if it's not, then like it can be really easily rectified.
Yeah, and you don't want to have the vitamin D3 by itself. You want to make sure it's with a K2 supplement to make sure it stays away from the bones and keeping it out of the soft tissue. So that's one thing I think many people get wrong, where they're like, oh, I'm just taking a plain vitamin D.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So the K2 helps to actually just get it where it needs to go. And a big role of the vitamin D is in the absorption of calcium, right? And so those two go hand in hand, and the vitamin K2 helps to support that job too.
And then also choosing the supplement, we want to make sure it's got this, I'm going to have you pronounce it, that cola.
Oh, cholecalciferol.
There you go. And why is it
Yeah.
important to have that?
So it's that essentially is vitamin D3, and so vitamin D3 is the talking about absorbable forms of different nutrients in the same way that we were talking about folic acid versus folate earlier. Vitamin D3 is really the most usable form of D3. So some of the cheaper supplements might be like D2, and really it's not going to be that helpful for you to take D2. It might for some people, but for most people, the D3 is going to be better.
And the next one we have is CoQ10 or ubiquinol. So ubiquinol has been shown to inhibit DNA oxidation, so and protecting the genetic code. So, and there's also a study from Fertility and Sterility that showed a daily supplement of CoQ10 can actually help with egg quality and fertilization rates. So I think many people in if you're on the fertility journey, are taking CoQ10 or ubiquinol. Can you talk about, why this is important, and I guess the form as well?
Yeah, so the CoQ10, it is something that is produced naturally within our own bodies, but it's it can be part of the reason that it's beneficial in women who are closer in age to the menopausal years, is because CoQ10 naturally depletes with age, i.e. the aging process in our bodies can deplete our CoQ10 production and our CoQ10 levels. So the CoQ10 has it's stored in our mitochondria, in our cells, which is it's known as like it's almost like our cells battery, and it's like the energy center for our cells. So CoQ10 is massively involved in energy production, but it's also really protective. So it acts it has a protective antioxidant effect on our cells, and particularly on our gametes, which in women's case would be our eggs, and also for sperm cells as well. So really helpful, when we're thinking particularly about egg quality. I mentioned earlier that with regards to egg quality, unfortunately, unlike sperm, where there's loads you can do, there's a limited amount that you can do to support the quality of the eggs, because we have them from birth. But what we want to do is protect them as much as possible, and what we're protecting them from is oxidative stress, and that can come from all sorts of things. It can come from toxic burden, it can come from the foods that we're eating, it can come from inflammatory responses and intolerances, it can come from even the air that we breathe, and it can come from our age. damage. So, what the CoQ10 does is really just help to actually act as a protective function for those gametes. And also, as I say, it just helps with energy levels. Like, again, how many people come to us saying that they're exhausted? And so the CoQ10 can be really, really helpful with that. Now, there's again, as with everything, there's different forms. What we know is that ubiquinol, as opposed to ubiquinone, is the form that is kind of ready to use by the body. It doesn't have to go through a conversion. So it's, we tend to recommend that people take the ubiquinol rather, so that their bodies can just, it's ready to use.
Yeah, so that's Ubiquinol. That's the one you
Mm-hmm.
want.
Yeah.
CoQ10. And also good for sperm, right? For helping with concentration, motility, and morphology.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why we tend to offer it for both partners. It's one of those things that is beneficial for both.
And the last one we have here is a probiotic. This is a key one that really everyone should be taking a probiotic, no matter if you're on the fertility journey or not. But especially if you're on the fertility journey, it's super important. People would think, well, why am I working on my gut health? But that's like the whole center of your health. So, and in this case, also probiotic for women, helping the health of the vagina, which we do vaginal microbiome testing, and we see a lot of dysbiosis or healing opportunities on the vaginal microbiome test too. So, but as far as a probiotic, what are we looking for there?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're absolutely right, Sarah, that the gut health should be at the forefront of everybody's minds, regardless of whether they're trying to conceive or wherever they're at on their health and their life journey. Because what we know now about the gut is that our immune system starts in the gut. Our hormones are modulated and detoxified in the gut. The gut is our main source for absorbing and assimilating nutrients that we get from food and supplements. The gut has a direct connection to the brain, and it's also involved in our inflammatory and our anti-inflammatory responses in terms of the microbes that live in our gut. So our gut really, we learned in nutrition college, you first start with the gut, because that is the foundation of all of our health. Like, someone could have the best diet in the world, but if they're not absorbing those nutrients properly, then it's not going to be doing them anywhere near as good as if they had like a really nice robust gut health. And that is something that at Fab Fertile, you guys are checking for more or less everyone that comes through the doors, right? Is doing these stool tests to like have a look and really check in with the gut health. What is a really, really nice thing to do, because what the stool test allows us to do is become really personalised and really nuanced to that individual, and do a targeted approach for them. But while we're kind of while we're almost waiting on that, and while we're kind of building everyone up, what is like the broad spectrum way of supporting the gut is by taking a good quality probiotic. And those good quality probiotics, what a probiotic means is that you're physically putting in the bacteria, the microbes that have a positive impact on our bodies. And so, for a lot of people, their levels of microbes are either depleted, so that the good bacteria are depleted, and some of the more problem-causing bacteria can often become elevated. And so what we're doing by including a probiotic for everybody is actually just helping to address some of those imbalances, while we then go in and kind of investigate what else might be going on, and then we can be a bit more targeted. And the vaginal microbiome piece of the puzzle is really significant, and this is one that we're learning more and more about now the vaginal microbiome and its impact on not just fertility for trying naturally, but IVF success rates and even miscarriage rates. Because what we're learning is that that vaginal ecology, the environment that we're seeing in the vagina and in the uterus, is really significant, and it matters for actually growing a baby in. So, if there is a dysbiosis, i.e., an imbalance of bacteria, an imbalance of microbes in the vaginal tract, which, by the way, is very close to the rectum, and so there can be crossovers between the two. We want to make sure that that is right. So, really important to get some strains of bacteria in through supplements, so that we know we're also starting to address some of those balances in the vaginal tract too.
Yeah, and Katie and I did a deep dive into the, that doesn't sound good, but we did a deep dive into the vagina. We did a deep dive into the vaginal microbiome. So definitely check out that episode that Katie and I did, so you can learn more about that and really why the importance, especially if you've got, recurrent UTIs, bacterial vaginosis, thrush, miscarriage, anyone on the fertility journey, looking at the health of your the vaginal microbiome is key. And so you want to make sure, so the probiotics, doing having a good probiotic can set you up for a healthy vagina, a healthy womb, which then helps with fertilization and implantation. So it's important not just to grab one off the shelf. You want to have a professional grade one that is of a high quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And also for men as well, it's important for helping with oxidative stress, which then helps with testosterone production, which then all helps with sperm health. So the probiotic for both men and women is for both of you to take it is key. And so any final thoughts today on these foundational supplements for fertility, Katie?
Yeah, I think it's just that reminder, isn't it, that there are there are some things that are going to be helpful for most people, and what you guys have created is a really robust a robust starting point that is going to be beneficial for everybody. And then what's happening then in Fab Fertile is we do digging, so we have this really strong starting platform, and then we become more and more nuanced as the program continues. And so the more we find out about you through the consultations with nutritionists, and then the lab testing that we do, which is really robust, the more pieces of the puzzle we get into place, then it becomes more and more targeted and more unique to you as an individual. So that's a beautiful thing about it. And so that's when these supplements start to really tie in to doing exactly that, supplementing all of the other work that you're doing around the food, the lifestyle, the sleep, the stress, etc.
Yeah, and the good news is with low AMH and high FSH, premature ovarian insufficiency, diminished ovarian reserve, or anyone on the fertility journey, there are things you can do, and you can do a DIY approach, which you can get so far, or you can take a personalized target approach using testing, making sure you're taking the right supplements, that are right for you. So awesome. So thanks again, Katie.
Thank you.